What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and a little movement skill deep dive here in preparation for the 2023 National Football League draft of my favorite player, my favorite mover, and arguably the most skillful and dexterous mover in the entire 2023 draft class. Bijan Robinson, running back out of the University of Texas. Now, typically when I do these breakdowns in preparation for the draft, I will look at one or two or three plays like I did last year for Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker and Garrett Wilson and Malik Willis. Maybe in the past when I've done a deeper dive on Saquon Barkley. This one with Bijan Robinson is going to be a little different, but it's going to be a little bit more Saquon-like, just simply because I was unable to narrow my preferred or favorite players, or favorite plays rather, from Bijan Robinson across his Texas football career. So again, typically we would look 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, but because there was so many highlights from Bijan Robinson, we're going to look at a video from Sports Productions, which is just a highlight video from the 2022 college football season, where Bijan Robinson, number 5, running back for the University of Texas, as you can see him here, is going to put himself on this highlight film and show who it is that he is. Now, common disclaimer here, when we're looking at a highlight video, we're not seeing the flaws as much as we typically would if we were to look play by play by play, carry by carry, or reception by reception, right? So as you guys have heard me say before, when I work with a player, we're looking at the good and the bad. We want to get the full glimpse as to who they are. But as we go through this, I don't know, 6.5, 7-minute video here from Sports Productions, I want to just take you along for the ride. And there will likely be some times, because there are some really standout plays even across this highlight video, that I'd like to probably pause and point out some things. But before we do, or if you don't want to sit through the whole thing, let me give you a synopsis. What we see from Bijan Robinson, very similar that at least the qualities or the movement outcomes that we see from a guy like a Saquon Barkley back in 2018. However, their process of solving problems, movement problems in the football world, differ. And of course, every player's skills differ. But really what we see from Bijan Robinson is his true make-a-miss ability. He was and is a tackle breaker, but he forces many of these missed tackles, right? So even though he's breaking tackles, it isn't always in your strength or power-oriented fashion, though we are about to see that from him. Instead, he has this true diversity within his movement toolbox. He has variability in his strategies, abundance in his strategies, and variability in those ways of executing. So we see him often execute and string moves together in highly adaptable and adjustable ways. Very, very rare at any level of American football. And really what we find with a Bijan Robinson in comparison to maybe other high-level running backs that have come in draft classes before is he will be fully willing to find a functional fit with any movement solution that is available to him. And he's often moving in a very movement ownership type of speed and pace, as I've talked about with certain players in the National Football League before. But this make-a-miss ability through stringing these movement solutions or strategies together, you're often going to see a lot of start and stop. You're often going to see a lot of slicing and like weaving through traffic that shows a maturity and evolution within the movement toolbox. But again, don't get it twisted. This isn't just a guy who's going to go ghost on you, who's going to make you miss. He will run you over. He will run through contact. He will put his hands on somebody, and he will find himself in these strength and power-oriented strategies and solutions often as well. And then finally, a summary here, you're going to see him run past some guys, and he uses his gear changes, his speed changes, tempo changes, rhythm changes, very, very functionally also. Now, with every system that has its strengths also comes some flaws. And I want to maybe find a way to point those out in the highlights. But of course, we're not going to necessarily see those as much on a highlight film. But what we often see from him in a very Saquon like nature, he gets this tunnel vision at times. However, the one thing with Bijan Robinson that differs in this case, so even though his tunnel vision often gets here and we don't see a lot of twisting and turning, a lot of scanning of the eyes through turning of the head, so he isn't often acting in order to perceive and then perceiving in order to act. He gets fixated and focused on what lies right ahead. But different from Saquon in a little way here is that he will string his moves together. He will make this immediate guy miss based on what is happening back behind that guy. So it isn't just about what's in front of him. It is what lies beyond. But I would like to see this open up from a periphery standpoint. So I've rambled long enough. Let's get into this 7-minute video here and see what Bijan Robinson is all about. Here, even though, of course, and I'm just going to talk over this and hit pause when we need to, even though here he's going against Louisiana Monroe, there's already a move I want to highlight because we are going to see some of these qualities and characteristics from Bijan Robinson really frequently. This ability to contort his body and adjust his movement actions in the midst of the action or on the fly based on what's happening. Watch this tackle attempt here and watch him just side skirt away from it with this little hop skip. And then always looking for a way to string these moves together as well as any back that I can remember coming out of the college game. And that obviously is going to serve him very, very well in the National Football League. Now, again, I know this is against the University of Louisiana Monroe, which is not obviously a powerhouse by any means. But if you were to see this play, and unfortunately, I think we only have it from this sideline view, but this was a play that if you saw from back over here, let me get my actual mouse. I don't know why I'm pointing for you guys. So you see me circling that. If you were to see it pointing this way and this trended on Twitter, you're going to see him moving in and out of some angles in some really violent but yet nifty, functionally fit ways. So I'm actually going to take us and put us in slow motion briefly here because I dig this play. I just wish we had it from the other angle. So Bijan Robinson here lined up obviously in the backfield. Let's just watch what he's about here as he finds his way through in a very patient manner. But talk about functional fit, adaptability within adaptability is good as it comes. Okay, so we see this start and stop ability, but the start and stop ability is all oriented about what's happening in front of me, what is the what is in front of me, and how can I move in relation to it. Again, even though against the University of Louisiana Monroe, here against Alabama, now #1 team in the country, but that was an easier walk-in touchdown. But against Louisiana Monroe there, complex movement problem, guys up in his space, guys up in his gap, and still being able to solve that problem. Again, he is going to need that in the National Football League. Here we see what is likely to make him a first-round draft pick, and in my opinion, what would lead to him being a high first-round draft pick is true receiving skills. Okay, a lot of running backs can just be moved out of the formation, and some of their receiving opportunities are coming by screens or little arrow routes and option routes. But what we see from Bijan Robinson is very Christian McCaffrey-like, the ability to be moved across the formation and to snag balls like this. A very natural catcher of the football, even though he wasn't asked to do it as much in Texas as I hope that he is in the National Football League, because he can be a true game-changing, game-breaking back if asked to do some of these things in the National Football League. Again, I mentioned it's not just about make a miss ability, but Bijan Robinson, when he gets in the open field, even though we do see him angled out at times or angled at times, angled in pursuit, we also see his ability to hit the home run. One of the things I want to mention, I went way too far back. But one of the things that I want to mention here is, again, that lack of scanning, this lack of perceptual attunement and sensitivity across the periphery. Again, on this play, it wasn't a deterrent to him scoring, right? But in the National Football League, it could and it will be, because guys have different action capabilities. Guys are faster. They're going to be in some spaces, and he's going to have to look to still put a move on those guys in that scenario or situation. But we do see a burst. However, this is against the University of Texas, I think San Antonio, UTSA, is that who that is? Again, I'm not the biggest college football aficionado, but we do see a burst from Bijan Robinson that isn't, Saquon Barkley or Adrian Peterson like. However, it is more than useful. It allows to a functional movement solution in most cases. I would just like to see this head turning and on a swivel more frequently. Through some of these plays, I know, like we see this traffic, weaving through traffic, true patience, true ownership from Bijan Robinson that, again, shows a maturity and an evolution. Once again, open field, he gives one glance to see if somebody is there, which usually at the college game is all that's going to be needed when one is more physically superior and gifted, more athletically gifted. Won't work as well in the National Football League when guys are going to be occupying that space. Again, I told you guys, okay, any way for him to find himself to a movement solution. He isn't picky, okay? To use no way is the way my guy Bruce Lee would say, is the Bijan Robinson way, which is something that, of course, I love from him. That's his authentic movement skill calling card. That's his form of life. In these situations in the NFL, going to serve him well. The ability to get in and out of positions that other people simply are not able to. That is Saquon-like. That is LaDainian Tomlinson-like. That's Marshall Faulk-like. Barry Sanders-like. And now I mentioned some names in there that are truly adaptable and dexterous movers in the National Football League, or were. And Bijan Robinson cut out of that same mold. Okay. And because of that, that sets the platform for his toolbox to be as wide open as it is. And this is why he has the ability to find so many different movement solutions to fit so many different movement problems. And so you can see already why Bijan Robinson is my favorite player in this draft. And I believe that he has the true capability, if he finds himself in the right situation, to be a game-changing back in the National Football League, just as he was at Texas. If he is used in a very similar fashion to that which way that Christian McCaffrey is, we could see his skill even evolve. Okay, so if he's put in situations where he's in space and across the diversity of space, there's a nasty move that you guys know I'm going to be coming back to. If he's put in these scenarios and situations where he's exposed to a diversity of problem situations, across situations, in the open field or in tight space, making one type of player miss versus making other types of players, like, there is nothing and no one that he can't find a solution to. Now, I say that, but at the National Football League level, at a certain point, there will be gaps that are exposed. That's intuitively obvious. That happens for every player. Even for a guy like my dude, Barry Sanders, he still had movement problems that were unsolvable for him. And that certainly will be the case for Bijan Robinson. So let's not get it twisted. Okay. But if he's put in a scenario or a situation where a team situation I'm talking about, where he might be utilized in very diverse ways. Obviously, I'm saying a Captain Obvious type of statement here that it's there that his movement skill can even take that next step up, that leap up. Here against Iowa State, I don't know how many players at any level can make this cut or solve a movement problem in this type of fashion right here. I mean, I said that he was more than willing. I just said this briefly a bit ago. He's more than willing to find himself in any strategy in order to solve a problem. You don't draw it up like this, guys and gals, obviously, but he, as long as it fits the problem, he has no problem coordinating, controlling, and organizing that movement solution to get himself out of harm's way. That's a very Barry-like type of quality, right? Again, that's not how you draw it up. It's also not how you would maybe train it in a traditional change of direction type of agility drill, right? Where typically guys are moving more decisively. That's one foot going out in that power kite type of fashion, as opposed to him kind of like scooting and skirting into this deceleration to change direction at this super sharp angle, right? Now, one thing I want to call out here is the elephant in the room. He's making this cut at a pretty far interpersonal distance already. And NFL defenders in this case are going to be able to shoot this angle, if you will, okay? Especially then when there's another guy coming back from behind. So this movement problem won't look, feel, act, or unfold like this in the National Football League. So he's going to have to find these functional fits in this way a little differently. However, his water-like adaptable nature in being able to make that cut. And then again, here we see the contorting in the midst of the action, adjustability while the action is taking place. Good stuff from Bijan Robinson here. And again, I talked about the speed. I talked about the ability to go into a strength and power-oriented solution or strategy. The ability to string these things together are different level. And I hope you guys can recognize that. Again, here's where we're coming to. Is this cut sharp? Not, the angle is sharp, but the cut execution itself isn't sharp per se. Not the way it would be if we had a cone sitting here, right? Or here where Bijan Robinson is cutting around. But it's not about the sharpness of the execution. It's about how does this movement solution functionally fit and how is it carried out in relation to the problem, where the opponent is, where the opponents are going, how they're layered together, and is he able to organize a solution that fits that problem? And Bijan Robinson, maturity and evolution well beyond his 21 years. Here again, we talked about him being split out wide or being moved around the formation, catching the football like a wide receiver, but at the running back position. Christian McCaffrey, that, I don't make draft comparisons. I don't want to make player comparisons, but his utilization should match that which what they do or has been done with Christian McCaffrey, both in Carolina as well as now in San Francisco. So if a team has those types of intentions of using Bijan Robinson in similar ways, they will and should draft him very, very high. Not just a first round type of guy, but early in the first round. Now, I'm biased. I love dexterous and adaptable movers, creative and authentic movers, as you guys well know now at this point at Football Beyond the Stats. And I love the running back position more than any other, as you guys also know here at Football Beyond the Stats. But this is a special cat, okay? And now we talked about the ability to solve any emerging movement problem. Yes, Bijan Robinson has exhibited and displayed the ability to make his guy miss. or multiple guys miss, right? But utilizing his own guys is something that he also is very adept at doing. Here he actually gets caught from behind and the defense does catch him. So, he isn't exempt from that, but no player really is exempt from that, with the exception of very rarefied air, right? Especially at the running back position, Chris Johnson, and just a few select individuals, right? But in most scenarios and situations, Bijan Robinson does have the speed as long as he can connect to the defender's angle or what space is affording him. Okay. So, yeah, he was 4.46 or 4.48, somewhere in that vicinity at the combine. But you guys know what I think about that. That doesn't really tell us much of the story, if any, particularly when we get on field and we're talking about game speed. I started talking over one of my very favorite plays here. We see the patience, we see the ownership, we see the stringing together, the threading together of movement, problems and solutions for that matter, both of them together. It's this constant intertwined, interwoven nature between these changing states of organization. How is the problem changing in front of me? How am I interacting in relation to it? And as I move, how does that continue to change? Bijan Robinson remains connected and he couples his movement in very close relation to it. Now, again, the problems at the NFL level will change. We see it again here against Kansas, just as we did earlier. So I'm gonna quit talking over myself, or quit talking over the video that I want to show, because here's one that is one I want to definitely show in slow motion. Because if he can show this Nick Chubb-like or Josh Jacobs-like type of movement, or Le'Veon Bell-like patience at the NFL level, even though the problems will change and will change with intensity as well as complexity, meaning numerous interacting component parts in tighter space and things of the like. If he can keep this type of ownership and keep this same type of water-like adaptability, there is no reason as to why he can't be an immediate game breaker in the National Football League, because these problems here look, feel, and act and behave like the problems in Sundays will, except the players themselves, the defenders themselves, will be acting differently because they have different action capabilities. They're just more athletically gifted than these individuals who happen to be playing at Kansas, right? And that's no disrespect to Kansas. It's just, it is what it is. We're talking about the top 1,696 across the league. And as we get closer and closer to this video coming down and winding down, I think you're seeing hopefully what it is that makes Bijan Robinson a favorite of me, and the authenticity, the adaptability, the calling cards are going to be there for Bijan Robinson, not only on Saturdays, but extending well into Sundays. So I know we went through a lot here today, guys and gal. You can see why it is that I'm so excited about Bijan Robinson and who he is and what his movement skill is about. Obviously, I'm going to be very excited also to see where it is that he lands, because just as it is with any player, it is about where that player lands that could determine how they are utilized and what movement problems they are frequently faced with solving. But Bijan Robinson is a fit in almost any system, gap to zone, doesn't really matter. You put him on a football field and you let him solve 11v11 problems, and it can quickly flip into someone playing chess rather than checkers. And I think the same thing is going to be true when Bijan Robinson hits the NFL Sundays. So even though we weren't looking at one play or two plays or three plays, we looked at a whole lot of them. Hopefully much of that, what is popping out to me, was able to make some sense for each of you out there. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, by all means, as usual, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, I would certainly appreciate a thumbs up, and like this and share it accordingly. So for Sean Mishka and Football Beyond the Stats, this is the Movement Miyagi. I will talk to you guys again next time in our next movement skill deep dive.